Every day, we go through the motions, doing our jobs, living the new normal, and trying to keep it all together. Hi, I'm Amber Kraft, and this is the Afterthought, a podcast designed to light your internal fire as we speak with those who have been in the trenches and dug their way back out. So sit back and relax, because you're not going down this road alone anymore. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Afterthought. Today I have with me Miss Tamara Woods. You may know her if you are anywhere on the YouTubes or the Twitters or just about anywhere. Now, with this podcast, she is the perfect person to talk to because she's done it all. She's been there. She's come out, done just about everything. And I am interested to talk to this woman. So, without further ado, Miss Tamara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Tamara Woods, and I'm a cozy mystery author these days. I wasn't always. And I co-host a podcast. I have a tweet chat, and I make YouTube videos, and I write books.
Now, I already knew you, but the more research I've done, just trying to see what you have done since the last time I interviewed you for Honeysuckles and Blood Roses, you were just an inspiration. Like, I can't say that enough. You've done so much, and
Oh, thank you.
you get an idea and you just run with it. So definitely glad to have you here. But can you tell a little bit of how you got started with the audience, what you did before writing, how you fell in love with it, that sort of thing?
Let's see. My background is in journalism, so I spent some time working for newspapers and doing freelance writing. And I also did some parasocial work. So I worked with people with disabilities as a job coach, and I also worked in people's homes, helping them to basically do maintenance and stuff in their house and take care of themselves, and to be there so that they'd have someone to help them take their medicine and stuff like that. And so those were the two main jobs that I had in my past. Let's see, in 2012, I had some major health complications. And I realized that I didn't have a lot of time left because I didn't know how much time I had left. So I decided that if I was actually going to do a book, if I was actually going to publish a book, then I needed to do it. I needed to stop making excuses and being stepping in my own way. I had to clear my own path and do it. So that's when I started really digging in on blogging and working on Blood Roses and Honeysuckles.
Now, you did that after your short story collection? I don't remember the dates off the top of my head.
I don't either, but I feel like, yes, it was either after or around the same time. I feel like it was around the same time. As you've seen, I kind of end up doing a lot of projects all at once. So there was the short story anthology, Blood Roses and Honeysuckles, and my poetry anthology with the Reverie Journal. Those things kind of happened within the same year and a half, 2 year period.
So was your health one of the reasons you decided to take the leap from having the job to, what's the word I'm looking for, to jumping to do what inspires you?
Yeah, I couldn't maintain doing the writing and having the full-time job at the same time. So knowing that, and we had just moved here. We'd been here about 5 months, and then I had the huge health scare. So I hadn't had enough time to really dig in and have a full-time job that I was in love with here. So I ended up working for Vista, and then after that placement was over, I started doing the writing thing full-time.
Here, being that you moved from the Virginias in the U.S. to Hawaii.
Yes. West Virginia to Hawaii.
That's almost like me moving cross country. That is a huge move to make.
Yeah, it was big, and always, like, I didn't realize how far Hawaii actually was from the coast of California, you know? When I got on that last leg of the trip, and I was like, okay, this shouldn't be that long. And then on the little TV in front of me where you can see like the trajectory of the plane, and it's like 5 hours. I was like, oh no, what have I done?
Now, because you have gone, we're going to go cross country and then some, we'll say, and you have been in 2 different places, what is probably the greatest resource along the way that you've had, and how do you think that'll help others in their journey?
Well, I have been very lucky that I have people in my life who support me. And I know that not all writers have that. But if you can find the people who support you, love you, and want to help you, that is going to get you so far. Then, because what I found was finding, like, having my family and my fiance, who of course support me in that respect, but then having other writers who became like my friends, and they helped me to learn things. So I learned about all of these dang on books that I have in this house. And I found out about like different groups and how do you do this self-publishing thing. Like, I was able to learn stuff from them, things that if I would have had to learn all by myself, it would have taken much longer. And even learning with like the help of others, it still took time, of course.
Yeah. Well, I am lucky to, at least on my end, feel like I may not be able to help you with a lot of stuff, but become your friend and encourage you and have tons of fun when we do get to, even though I'm on the Pacific Coast, we don't get to link up a lot because you are still those few hours behind. But I know the community itself is really great, and you are a big part of that. And being that encouragement, whether we encourage you or not, you are a ton of encouragement for us. But I have to ask, how do you go from, you seemed like the queen of ideas, how do you go from, yeah, that's a great idea, to, hey, we're starting AuthorTube News, hey, we're starting the Evergreen Retreat? You just seem to get an idea and go with it, girl.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Like with AuthorTube News, that's the podcast I do with Carol Brown, but we've been on hiatus because the beverage bug and everything that's gone along with it has really kicked our butts, but we'll be coming back soon. With that, I really enjoyed podcasts. And as I said, my background's in journalism. So I wanted to talk about news, but I didn't feel like YouTube was the right spot. And then I realized, yeah, podcasts are a thing. And I started kind of researching a little bit about podcasting and what it was about. And then I was like, well, this will be much better if I have a partner in crime. And then I was like, hey, Caro. And she's like, yes. And I was like, excellent. And then from there, once I do find a partner in crime, it's about bouncing ideas off of each other and figuring out a way to make this work for both of us. I really like doing collaborative work. I do have things that I've done by myself too, of course, but I like doing collaborative work because then there's people who are bringing their experience, their eyes, and their ideas to the table, and it kind of makes it it makes it a richer experience. I think that Evergreen Writing Oasis wouldn't have become what it was if it would have just been me at the helm. But having 3 bright, wonderful women beside of me and us working together to make it happen is why it was successful, or at least in my opinion, successful.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was actually really cool watching y'all go from on camera at that, going from, hey, we should do this. This is a great idea, to, yeah, we could get other people. It was like watching the wheels turn in all of your heads at the same time. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's this big thing with tons of guests. And I'm like, whoa, this got really big really quick. I'm so excited. So yeah, you have the writing workshop that I am lucky enough to do with you every month. And then you had the Evergreen, and you have your Twitter thing every Thursday, and all these books. Like, I don't know how you find time to do it all.
Well, sometimes I sacrifice sleep, which isn't very healthy. And I do find that, like with Evergreen, that was such a huge project. And we gave ourselves a ridiculously short timeline. Like, that was
Yes, you did.
absurd. It was absurd. And I don't even know how we managed to do it, but,
but how do you balance all that without getting burnout though?
Well, that's why right now I'm not really doing a lot. Because I knew that after that was maybe 8 weeks, and I knew that after this 8 weeks of like very intense planning execution, that I was going to need this time. And it's important to schedule yourself time. But I've found that I'm a workaholic, which surprised me, but surprised no one else. So
you're talking to somebody who's interviewing you on a day off from work. So
yeah, this is my vacation. So, you know. But again, I have people who are like, hey, you're on vacation. Have you done anything fun today? And I'm like, well, I watched AuthorTube videos. And they're like, no, that's not fun thing. Go do something fun. I'm like, fine, okay. So
it's not like, you live on an island with tons of beautiful beaches. Girl, get out.
Oh my gosh. I'm nervous about the beaches though. Every day the COVID numbers have been increasing and people aren't trying to stay away from each other. But we are going camping next week, because the place that we're going to it's like a little bit further away. The campsites are pretty spread out. We've been there before and it's gorgeous. So I am going to do at least one fun thing, and I'm going to unplug for at least 3 days. So I need that out in the universe, that I'm trying to take care of myself.
I feel like being creative itself is hard enough to take time off, but especially when you're like me and you, and we don't know how to not be workaholics, you almost have to unplug and have nothing within hand's reach in order to make you unplug and have a vacation.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, because let's say last night I was talking with Kara and Dana, and we're just chatting, and then I'm like, oh, here's an idea. Kara's like, wait, why don't we talk about this next idea after you're done with vacation? And I'm like, no, it's just a little one. It's not even like an event or anything. Just a little idea of something we could do.
Keep them in a notepad, open it after vacation.
Exactly.
Now, you're obviously doing all the things and doing them well. I haven't seen anything you've ever failed at, but is there anything that you feel like you could still be doing better, or in regards to your writing or your content creation or all the other things that you have going on?
Well, with my content creation, like with my YouTube videos and things, I feel like I want to start trying out some different things. I've been on the YouTube platform for a long time, and I've done vlogs, I've done like skits, and now, we're in the live streaming phase, which I feel like I've been doing that for so much longer than everyone else that now I'm like, okay, live streams are fun and all, but what's the next thing? What's something now that I could do that's fun? So as for me, I look at YouTube as a fun way to interact with other writers, and a good way for me to just practice a little bit of creativity. But it's not like the end all be all, because at the end of the day, I want to be writing and selling my books. And even though I love my audience and like everyone there is so very cool and so very wonderful and warm and accepting and very supportive. And there's definitely times that Thursdays I'm like, if I wouldn't have gotten up to do the stream, then I wouldn't have gotten up to do the anything.
I feel that on Sundays.
Right? But like, I know that they're not necessarily the target audience for my books because not everybody wants to read a cozy mystery. It's just facts. It's just facts on facts. And YouTube is more of like the fantasy kind of paranormal. If you look at like Booktube itself, that's where people kind of seem to the genre that they kind of leaned into, and there seems to be like a bigger YA audience. So there's not really a big cozy mystery audience. I want to talk more about cozies on my channel after my vacation and like do some stuff with that because I have some ideas and I think it'd be fun. But in terms of my writing itself, I have got to come up with a less chaotic way to draft. Like, it's...
What kind of drafter are you? What makes it chaotic?
The chaos comes from the lack of order. So I absolutely 100%, I'm a person who I write, and then if another idea pops up, then I'm absolutely writing out of order. And so then I'll write that scene and then I'll put it somewhere and then I'm going back to the beginning and this, that, and the other. And then, oh, wait, maybe at the beginning this should happen. So I'll go over that. Like, it's chaos. And then that zero draft is a monster. It is one of the reasons I hate editing so much. So I'm hoping that this book, Writing Into the Dark, How to Write a Novel Without an Outline by Dean Wesley Smith, I'm really hoping that Mr. Smith is going to give me some points and help me out.
See, I can't write scene moving like that, but yeah, I have an outline that's like maybe 4 lines, so I totally get where you're coming from. Like, oh crap, what have I put where? What do I need to edit? What did I totally miss out because it's in my head instead of on paper? Yeah. So what do you think, especially with that kind of, on that topic, what do you feel like has been your greatest failure or hiccup along your journey, either in writing or YouTube or all of that encompassed, that you've learned from?
What has been my biggest hiccup? Well, you know what? Writing Blood Roses and Honeysuckles was an excellent learning experience, but I don't feel like I executed that book as well as I had envisioned it. And that could be because it was the first book, and that's just...
I think we all feel that with the first book. I know I did.
It's like a pancake, you know? That first pancake, you're going to make it, you're going to try to make it as good as you can, but you know that it's not going to be as good as like the third. That's just... the law of pancake also extends to the law of books, at least in my life. So that was a project that I felt like I really needed to do, and I'm very glad that I did it. But I wish that the whole experience around it would have been smoother. It should have been smoother.
Okay. I definitely feel the hiccups on the first book. Like, that's why mine's off Amazon. It was not what it should have been. And I feel like, especially like, and I know you'll know with the Cozy series, you had this idea when you first start the first book that when you get to book 2, 3, 4, it doesn't quite pan out the way you had hoped or you had originally visioned. And sometimes it works where the book is still good, and other times you're like, they're going to notice this difference. It's huge. So
I ended up doing things backward. So this is something that I suggest all of your listeners don't do this. So I wrote Wiped Out, which is book 1 in Beachbound Cozy Mystery series. And then I wrote the prequel, Closed Out. And that is in the Mystery Follows Her anthology that just came out at the end of last month.
Okay, I didn't know that was a prequel. Now I'm really curious as I've read Wiped Out.
Yeah. So that's the prequel. It shows how Freya gets from West Virginia to Hawaii. And then I wrote that and I was like, I need to add some of these details in the rest of the series. Cool. This was a great idea. So now I'm figuring that out. And I guess there's going to be a little bit of the prequel dusted into the second book that I'm working on now, that I finally titled. It's been called Beachbound 2 forever. I'm not going to announce it yet, but I finally have a title for it. My gosh. Now I'm waiting for my cover designer to like update the cover so that I can like be like, here's the thing.
So you have, like, I know the earlier books, but in the Beachbound series, is it just Wiped Out so far? Because I know you have another book. I've read it. Is that? I thought that was part of it. That's the Mystic Eye series, right?
Right. I took that book one down. And the reason I took that down was manyfold. But one of the reasons was because the newsletter magnet that I just it sounds like I do a lot. The newsletter magnet that I just released at the end of last month as well, Midnight Murder. There was things that happened in that book that affects, again, don't do this. Plan it better. But there's things that affect what happened in Murder Despair. And it was like, I didn't realize that it was going to have such a direct correlation, but it does. So I need to take that. So I took that down. And one of my goals for either this month or next month is to like work that and make it so that it all flows together smoothly as possible. And that's going to take some time, a little bit of time.
See, now you're just piquing my interest because I read Murder Despair and loved it, but I did not get a chance to read the first one that you've taken down, Midnight Murder. So now I'm curious what the correlations are.
Well, Midnight Murder is still available. That is for my newsletter. So it's a newsletter magnet. I know that you know what it is, but I'll explain just in case people don't. A newsletter magnet is the freebie that you use for folks to come and check out your newsletter. So I kind of think of it, and I hope this isn't insulting to any of my subscribers, but think of it as like the bait and for the fish, you know? So you have the bait to bring them in, to reel them in, not to fry them later. And so some people will have like, they'll create like a beautiful family tree or maps of the world that they've created. They'll give a sample of the next book. I created a prequel to all the prequels. So Freya, Issa, and Naylina, they're the three cousins that are featured in my stories. And this is kind of like their origin story. And from here is the basis for the three. There's going to be a third series. It hasn't started, but
I was like, wait, what? I'm getting news here.
So this is kind of like the trampoline jump off for those three series. And that story is set when they are teenagers, and the series themselves are all when they're adults.
Okay. So now I'm going to have to go back and read that, because knowing there's going to be a third series, I mean, I definitely got to keep my eye out and get to read quicker.
This has been so much fun, like the writing of things, figuring it out, like puzzles, you know. I've always really enjoyed puzzles, and like Tetris was always my stuff, you know. I love Tetris, and just seeing how things fit together and work together. And once I realized that shows like Murder, She Wrote was a cozy mystery, I was like, wait a second, this is a thing? And people write these?
Yep.
I was like, wait, I want to try this, because I realized that I was reading all these cozies. I just didn't have the word for what they were. I just thought of them as mysteries, but I was gravitating toward like a certain kind, where it was, you know, female protagonist, and they weren't actually detectives, but they were figuring out stuff, and they're super smart, and they like books, like, all these different things. And I realized, oh wait, this is a whole genre, and there's a whole community of writers who love these stories too. So once I realized that correlation, that's why I kind of moved away from writing women's fiction and horror into writing cozies. It was very natural. It made sense.
It's like we both like puzzles, but I took it into like a physical house flipping thing, and you took it into writing. So two totally different ways to go with that, apparently. I like puzzles, putting floors together, and like, how can we do this wall? And yeah. So funny how that could go two different ways. So because you've been on YouTube since before it was YouTube, or before it was AuthorTube, it was WriteTube, because I had known you then, but I wasn't to this stage of getting on myself, and you were one of the few that actually were able to find and we're talking about this thing we all loved called writing. What is one thing that you wish you had known back then when you started writing and starting the YouTube together?
I wish I would have known other people that were doing it. When I initially first started, I made my first video because I was out here, and my family and friends were 5,000 miles away, and I thought, well, maybe I could share some of my life with them, and this would be an easy way to do it, so I wouldn't have to like tell the same stories over and over. And from there, I started watching, her name now is Amy Landino. I cannot remember what it was at the time. I can't remember what her maiden name was. But I started watching her channel, and she was talking about like doing vlog every day in April and vlog every day in August beta. So I started doing that with this group of people. None of them were writers and none of them were readers, but it was just a chance to kind of practice. And I fell into Booktube. I realized that Booktube existed, and I was like, holy crap, there's like readers and they're talking about books. I want to do this. So then I started doing that, but then I realized that I wanted to focus more on the writing aspect of it rather than the reading, because that's what my focus was just personally. I was writing more than I was reading. But yeah, I wish that I would have realized that there was more people out there who were doing it and just, didn't necessarily have a name for it yet. Because it's interesting now, I have seen videos pop up from back then, and I'm like, where were you? I would have loved to have talked to you.
I feel like the algorithm just wasn't ready for us then.
I don't think so.
Because I posted my first video right before my my writers conference that I had saved up money for. I was actually finally close enough to go to when I lived in Nebraska, and it was in Colorado. And that was the first video I posted, like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm getting out of my comfort zone because I am such an introvert. And that was like a few months before AuthorTube kind of got a grip. And it was like, okay, well, if other people can do this, so can I. I don't know how all the technical parts work. I'll figure that out later. I'm going to post this anyway. Yeah, definitely get that.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult when you don't have like your IRL writing group or like writing buddy,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'd had that in Texas, and then I moved to this Nebraska, and then the closest IRL was an hour and a half away. I was like, I'm not driving that every week. That's just the same.
And, in Morgantown, I had Morgantown Poets, which was a poetry group that I had organized with a couple. I like to organize things. So that I had organized with a couple people, and that was, I think that stopped maybe a year ago. So it was a very long-standing part of the community, and I had other writing friends and things like that. But when I moved here, I didn't have any of that, and I tried going to the IRL like NaNoWriMo community events, and I would try to go to that, but I found that I felt really introverted here, which was interesting because I didn't realize I was an introvert. But
I feel like everybody has their moments, but I hardly ever see it with you.
Yeah, but I actually am. It's really weird. I have a tendency to be very shy, and I'm kind of reserved when I first meet people. And so I was sitting there and I just felt so just a fish out of water, that I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the path that I need to take. And then I started to make the videos, and eventually I started meeting people. And I was like, okay, this works.
Now, I guess we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but because you are all over giving advice, what is the one piece of advice that you would either give to 10 years younger you or someone just starting out, maybe in the shoes you were when you first started writing?
With YouTube, I would say don't be afraid to start. YouTube is it seems like a very huge place where you can get lost, and that's true, because it's an incredibly big platform. But there are people there, and there are people there who share your interests. Don't be afraid to share your interests with people. You don't have to have a perfect setup. I still do not have a perfect setup. I will never have a perfect setup. You know, if you have a phone and some outdoor light, you're golden. You're golden. You know, just don't be afraid. Don't let the fear stop you. And I think that I would say that to my writing self too. You know, don't let the fear stop you. The fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment from people. You know, I've heard people say that a lot. You know, how do you deal with your friends and family reading your book and judging you? Well, you could either not tell them about it, you could write it under a pen name, or you can write it and still not really share it with them and, you know, do it under your name. Or you can share it with them and let it fall as it may, because you can't possibly live your life up to other people's standards. It has to be your own. And what do you want? Do you want to write? Do you want to publish? Then do that.
Yeah, I think that's becoming a common theme is as writers, is the judgment and the imposter syndrome that we all face is probably the hardest thing to overcome. But when you do, it's one of the greatest achievements you'll make. What do you think is the biggest misconception or myth about being an author, an entrepreneur, that you wish you could just debunk into extinction?
People seem to think that writing a book is easy if they haven't written one. And they don't seem to have a real good scale of how long it takes.
This is true.
So I would love for people who are like, hey, Tamara, so when's your next book coming out? And I'm like, oh, you know, it should be around X, Y, and Z month. It's going to take that long? Oh my gosh. Or I wish that I had the time to write a book. Then I would write one if I had the time. Like, no one has the time.
I can't tell you how much I hear that.
Right? Like, we all have the same 24 hours. I just decide to dedicate X amount of hours to the writing. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I sacrifice doing other things in order to make that happen.
And it's the sacrificing I feel like they can't. You can't even not work during vacation. You're like me. But I feel like that's the biggest part of that misconception too, is that they're like, where's the time? Well, you have to prioritize everything you do in life. So when I choose to write, you choose to lay down on the couch and watch TV. I can't tell you the last episode of TV I watched. I
actually watched television over the weekend, and I was like, whoa, I'm watching a thing. And then I felt vaguely guilty about it. Which, do you have that?
Yes.
Where you finally will be like, okay, I'm doing a thing that's not work related, and then you're doing the thing, you're like, wow, I should really be doing something.
Yeah. I had to quit watching shows with my mom even when I did get a chance, because I would be so far behind. I'd be like, but this wasn't this and this character was here, and she's like, you are so far behind, don't even try. So
yeah, I drive him crazy because I'm like, okay, we're watching a show together, we're doing it, and then we'll binge watch, 6 episodes, and then he's like, okay, when are we finishing it? And I'm like, well, I have all this stuff I need to get done, and XYZ LMNOP, and he's just like, you did it again. And we started a series, didn't finish it. So we started on Amazon Prime. What's it called? Oh, dang it. What's the show
I don't know.
called?
I'm hooked to Hannah on Amazon Prime.
I want to take the time to Google it. Babe, what's the show called that I have not finished watching with you?
To say, is it Hannah?
He said, what? You got to be more specific. That's how many times I've done this. The last one, Hunters.
Okay.
Hunters. So we've watched, and there's just one season of it, and we're like halfway through it. And damn it, we're gonna finish watching it tonight so I can stop being that person.
The only times I think I do that is if it's a Saturday and it's raining, which was my off day. We're having to move it to Sunday because of podcasting and all the other things. I just need a full day with everyone at work and busy. But I will I'll binge watch a whole season just to get caught up, and I'm like, okay, now I don't have to worry about that one for a year, you know?
Oh my gosh, Jessica Jones. We never did finish watching it.
Oh, you need to.
I know.
It's so
I think we have like 4 episodes left. Oh my gosh. But that show, every time I'd watch it afterwards, I felt so dang on depressed that I was like, I don't know if I should be watching this.
Now,
this is making me too sad.
Now, because we're talking about shows, this is my signature question I ask every person I have on. What is your favorite book that has been adapted into a movie or TV show, and which one did you like more? Because I feel like as authors, we either criticize too much or we analyze too much.
Well, see, one thing is that, like, Murder, She Wrote was a book series, but I have never watched it. So that's not it. There's this one series that I can't think. I'm very bad with names. And I'm trying to think of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. And yeah. I like the show better. And I think it might be because I watched the show before I read the book. And I found that if I do that, then I'll tend to like the show more. But I love that series. It is so good. So good, so good, so good.
See, I'm that way with Shadowhunters. Like, I absolutely love the show, but the book isn't too bad either.
Yeah, I've just read the book for that one because that was a Booktube favorite. Everyone loved Shadowhunters. So I was like, what? Well, I gotta find out about that. What's happening here?
So, with everything you've done, from moving to writing to taking ideas and making huge workshops out of them, where can everybody, our listeners and our viewers, find you most days? Because all your links are going to be down below, so we will know where to find you, but where are you most accessible?
I am probably on Twitter the most. Like, that's where I live. I do my tweet chat, #WriteStuff, every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Though Caro is hosting it for me while I'm on vacation. So that's been awesome. She did it last night, and I was like, this is so cool. Why haven't I done this before? I've been hosting this for like 5 years, and I've never had someone else do it. Why not?
That's toast. Why didn't I think of that?
This is great. So, yeah. So that might be something I do more in the future. But, yeah, I'm probably most often seen on the Twitter or on YouTube and all of the live streams that I do.
All right. Is there anything I didn't touch on that you would like to?
I don't know. I feel like we had a good conversation. I'm thinking of anything that we haven't really talked about.
Just like, because this is the Afterthought. You have amazing books, and I will have links for them all down below. But this is the Afterthought. This is things we don't talk about that we probably should, to let newbies know what goes on.
I would say that even though I talk about being a workaholic, it's not healthy. And I acknowledge that. And I am trying to do better and pay more attention to things like, did I take my medicine today? Let's find out. You know, things like that. Or maybe I should sleep tonight instead of working or catching up on my reading or whatever. But I feel like we've been talking a lot in the community about self-care. And I think that it's incredibly important. Don't sacrifice your health, whether it's your physical or your mental health, in order to finish a project or in order to try to get further along in like your YouTube journey or something. All of these things are fleeting. You can come back to the book. If you damage your health let's try that again. If you damage your health to the point where you can't fix it, there's nothing more important than your health and how you're feeling. And if you're not taking your health into consideration, the work that you're going to be putting out is not going to be as good. It's just not. So, take care of yourself. And if your family and friends are telling you that you're doing too much and you need to slow down, don't be stubborn and try to ignore them and pretend like they're just wrong. Maybe take the time to do a little self-assessment and then go on a vacation. And
a real vacation.
A real vacation. You have to do at least 2 hours of fun things every day on vacation. This is what I've been told. This is my mandate. So I've got 2 hours of fun things. I think that we might go to the beach later.
Even when I unplugged, I still ended up vlogging the entire trip. So I still worked.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to have to see if that's allowed.
Well, thank you for coming and letting me pick your brain and taking away from your vacation time. I really appreciate that. When I tried to book you, I didn't know you were on vacation, or I would have said no. Just get off the computer. We can wait.
I didn't tell you.
No, you didn't. So I feel honored and feel bad at the same time.
Don't feel bad. These are my shenanigans.
It's like the mathematician's gonna scold me later.
Oh my gosh, he got me today. I was like, honey, can you hook me up with some coffee? I'm about to do some work. He's like, you're on vacation. Why are you working? And I was like, well, I booked this interview with us, and I'm just doing the interview. And he was like, oh my God. But 2 hours of fun things.
All right. Well, this has been the Afterthought. Thank you, Miss Tamara Woods, for joining us. And until the next episode, guys, happy life, happy writing. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Hi, guys. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and there are many more to come. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and make sure you follow this podcast, the Afterthought Podcast, for more authors and entrepreneurs, and see how they went through the trials and tribulations in their life and made their life a success. If you'd like to be a guest, make sure you hit all of my links down below, or you can simply email theunknownseries@gmail.com and ask anything you'd like, or tell me a little bit about yourself and things you've overcome to get to where you are now. With that said, I will have this podcast going every month. So until the next episode, guys, this has been the Afterthought Podcast, and thanks for joining. Bye now.